Worldwide, woman to woman, welcome inside, where the truth is spoken. Human trafficking is real and silence is broken. Information, resources, conversation, of course it's devastation. All you'll need to know, come learn and grow, it's the BevChandran Show.
Hi, welcome to the Bev Chandran Show, where purpose, passion, and solutions drive the content of this show. You out there, a lot is going on. You have purpose, you have passion, and there are solutions, particularly with the last couple of years and COVID-19, and even before that, all the havoc that went on in the world caused many of us to go within to seek answers versus without. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear about your purpose, passion, and solutions, what's driving you personally and in your community. And if you have a business, I definitely want to hear what your business is, what the purpose and the passion is, and what solutions you are solving. Today, we have in the studio with us Aisha Saran, and she has written a book called The Black Girl's Guide to Healing, Building, and Branding, the Saran Strategy. She's only 30 years old, and she took the content of her life and is calling it a strategy that she wants to enlighten young girls about so that they can have a better future, so that they won't make the mistakes that she's made and possibly do better than she's done, even at the age of 30. I thought it was very interesting. You know, a lot of people start businesses and this strategy, the management strategy, the marketing strategy, the small business strategy. No, she took her name, she took her life, the essence of her life, and she called it a strategy. She went through something and she's coming out of it as a strategy to help young girls. When I heard her on the radio, internet radio show, and then I ordered the book and I read it, and I'm like, it's not for young girls. It's for women of all ages, girls and women, all the way up to 70 years old, because the messaging that you may have gotten as a young girl, it didn't work for Aisha, it didn't work for you, it didn't work for me, and we kind of muddled our way through life trying to make adjustments. Some of the adjustments worked, many of it didn't. So for her to put her experience into a book, I ain't mad at her. I think that, although it's got a couple of curse words in it, that I wish she hadn't put in it, that I hope that's a volume 2 to remove them, because I really feel that the book could end up in schools and universities and CDCs and in the hood. And a lot of people ain't going to feel you with certain language, okay? Mm-hmm. So we're going to work on that. But again, I'm not trying to change you. I want you to share your life experience and how you decided to make the Saran Strategy. So tell us about it, Aisha.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
So my name is Aisha Saran. My creative stage name for acting, writing, books, film, that kind of thing. My name's Aisha Patterson. That's what's on my birth certificate. So Saran is my second middle name. So my name's Aisha Niara Saran Patterson. So
okay, beautiful name, and you just took it out. Here we go again. Your creativity is like, no, this is going to work for my creative persona.
Yes.
Okay.
So when I wrote the book, I wrote it during the pandemic, actually. I have a background of being a teacher. So I was actually a long-term sub for a kindergarten class, which I loved. I loved what I was doing. And then, of course, you know, we got the announcement, oh, we're going to be out of school for 2 weeks due to some kind of health crisis. So we didn't know what was happening. I said, okay, I have 2 weeks off. Okay. Then it turned into another 2 weeks off. And then turned into, oh, we don't need you anymore. So I didn't have a job. And with an agency, I'm not salaried, so I really had no money, so what I had saved. So, I didn't know how long it was going to last. So a lot of my friends, I put in the introduction as well, come to me for advice a lot, or we just have conversations. And, we mentioned off camera, I'm those who are into astrology, I'm an Aries. So Aries tend to be known for kind of being very direct to the point, sometimes blunt and harsh.
Yes.
But it comes from a place of love.
Okay.
So my friends come to me because they can trust me, So I said, well, if you're going to keep asking me the same questions, let me put it in the book. We actually write this stuff down, and we can
So
always
a
go back
lot
to
of this, the content is not just about you, it's you and your friends.
A little bit. I mean, the book is about me, but there are things I talked about that will come up in conversations.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wrote it, and it's also a workbook, too, to answer certain questions. So everything I put in here are things I really do in my real life. And I kind of, one of my personality traits, I can make fun of myself. So sometimes I think we get so caught up in not wanting to look bad or look like, we've done some foolish things. But I think sometimes if you own that, it actually helps you to be stronger. It also helps someone else. Because a lot of us go through the same things, but no one wants to admit it. So we just hold it in,
Right.
When in reality, a lot of people really don't even care. Like, they're not really going to even judge you. But we hold these things in, and we have this, like, private shame. So I kind of want to put myself
There's
out
a lot
there.
of private shame going on. But, in your book, the introduction, you say, personally, my no-nonsense personality came as a result of me getting hurt a lot in life. I had to learn over time that sometimes what I needed to hear wasn't always what I wanted to hear. Once I accepted truth for what it was, everything else became easier for me to understand. I wanted to pass along what I've learned to help anyone who needs it. As a Black woman, I've always believed in myself, despite others not always believing in me. I'm going to stop right there. Share, how do you feel that the people, your parents, the people you grew up around didn't believe in you? When was that information transmitted to you and you felt that way?
When I was very young, we've had conversations off camera before, but so I'm a product of teenage parents. So my mother had me when she was actually 15, and my father actually was a little younger than that. That's even, yeah.
Okay.
So it was, and also with my father's biracial, my mother's a Black woman. So with that being said, I look different than the relatives I grew up with. So
Okay.
that right there, even if there was someone tried to kind of pretend I was something else, you couldn't, because I stood out.
Right.
And
Stood out personality-wise?
I mean, personality-wise, but physically, both.
Physically,
I look different.
Okay.
This is me with the tan. You see me in
Okay.
December, I'm gonna look a little different.
Different. You
So
look a
I'm
little
a lot
lighter
lighter,
complexion.
and then my personality's a lot kind of like vibrant, outspoken. And even then, I grew up in the church. So both of my grandparents, who I grew up with most of my life, they're both preachers' kids. So you can
Okay.
only imagine two
Right.
preacher kids who got married. Their daughter has a child young. So it was a
Shame.
lot. It was the shame. So that's why I talk about gender as well. Like if for example, say if my uncle got someone pregnant young, would it be seen the same way? It would have been still shame, but not the same kind of shame it is when your daughter has a child young.
Right,
So
right.
I always grew up like that already, kind of like everyone knew who I was before I knew who they were, and I had to kind of always maybe that's why I act now. I had to kind of perform all the time with everyone watching what I'm doing or looking for something to say.
And that's interesting because I have actually seen that with interracial kids, that people are always staring at them and looking at them to see how they behave or act differently, particularly when they're young. But even as adults, people like to stare at people. They like to, really focus in and mind other people's business, so to speak. So you got a lot of that in your young years amongst your family. Before even outside of your family. And that changed your perspective, or that set the patterns of your personality and made you more, I guess, overt.
Yeah. I mean, naturally, people will never believe me if I say I'm actually introverted. People would think this is the polar opposite. But people think if you're like social and friendly, you're extroverted. But it's actually an energy thing. I
Right.
get drained very easily from people. Right.
Do you
So
really?
it takes
Okay.
a lot out of me. Like I can still enjoy the company, but I
Right.
really like my personal space. I didn't have the luxury to really be myself because I had to always be like it's showtime when I go places. So
Right.
if I wanted to just kind
Interesting.
of be private, I didn't have that. I couldn't, and especially being a daughter of a teenage mother, it's like privacy, wasn't happening. So if I ever had a diary, it would probably be read, or and if I'm just talking to a boy or whatever, it's automatically perceived as something deeper than what it was. So there were certain things I really learned as well, but there are a lot of things that really hurt too.
No.
Serious.
When did you learn confidence through that whole process? So you come from, we have something in common. I'm a product of teen parents also. And so when you out there, if you are a product of teen parents, then it can be a rough road because they're not bringing a lot to the table if they were more mature, educated, and had things going on that could contribute to your upbringing. So do you feel that as a product of teen parents that was a hindrance to you prospering and grow in your growth cycle?
Honestly, I mean, initially, I think the emotional side hurt. So sometimes you get so much in your emotions that it bothers you. But then long term, and honestly, not even trying to be funny, there's so many like awful things that happened to me when I was younger. I'm kind of like, what else can you even do to me at this point?
Like, can you give us an example without going so deep that
Going
you're
too
going to
deep?
end up crying on the show?
Oh goodness. I mean, I moved past it now, but like there was a lot of, and it's also, and you may understand as a black woman as well, like when you're a little black girl and you're raised religious, just speaking out things that are true is frowned upon, right?
Right.
The idea that what happens in this house stays in this house, and that no matter what your parents do, they're your parents.
Right.
My mother and I have actually gotten so much closer recently, but I'm also 30, so it took about 30 years for us to actually,
Okay.
come together. But what I will say is that there was a point in my life that my mom ran away when she was she was young. So I ended up being in foster care for a couple years.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that being said, when I was, roughly 3 years old, 3 to about 5, I was with other people. And I do remember it a little bit, so it's kind of like you already, whatever that does psychologically to you, even though, I was still a happy kid. And apparently social worker said the same thing. She's always happy, always smiling. That's one thing about me.
But that was that a front? Okay.
No, I really was.
Okay.
And that's the thing I think people don't, it's also hard too. It's like, people think if you go through so much, there's no way you could actually be happy. Like I
Right.
really was, and I'm still that way. I'm able to I still can be happy while still acknowledging. Maybe that's why when you actually accept something, you're
Right.
able to still have joy. And Saran actually means joy.
Okay.
It's Swahili.
Interesting. Your name, Saran,
Yeah.
means joy.
Niara is one with high purpose. Aisha is she who lives or alive and well prosperous. So my name itself is very interesting too. But not that.
In your book, you list some myths that are associated with black women specifically, correct?
Yes.
And myth number 1, we are worth less than everybody else. When did you observe that or feel that you really, was that in your growing up teen years or your adult years?
I didn't even say like tween years, like being like 11, 12.
Okay.
Things and observations and, at home.
Like what? Give some examples of what that,
Just, how can I say this?
because
So,
that really sets the stage. If you don't feel that you're worth much or you're below at the starting point, then that then could lead to you down a road of some undesirable behavior.
Yeah, the reality
Okay.
socially, I remember just, to answer your question is that I feel like the whole thing I'm 30, so God willing, there's hopefully more time. But even when I feel like the one theme in my life is that naturally I'm a happy, confident person. It's been others who try to kind of put me in my place a little bit. Like you shouldn't be confident. So let me try to tell you that you're not this or that kind of thing.
And your work life, home life,
Both. Yeah. But part of that is, and I put the examples where our ethnic names, my name's Aisha. People never think my name's Aisha. So because of how I look, and Aisha is actually an Arabic name, but we know a more of like
what
an
does
urban.
Aisha look like? I have no idea. Because I
Exactly.
know a lot of
But
Aishas,
apparently I don't look like
and
one.
they all look different. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but they always say that about black names, Okay, Aisha, the name. All right, the next one.
Second myth, oh, we should never be too picky.
No, not the pickiness. You list certain things. The
Sorry.
shape of our
Yeah, so the
bodies.
shape of our bodies.
Right.
And I put in parentheses, which were God given. So even with me, so I kind of developed early when I was young, then I just like stopped. So I kind of look similar now as I did when I was like 14.
Okay, gotcha. So
You know.
you were blossomed really early.
Yeah. And then after that, I kind of was up and down. I never was been like chunky. Well, of course, my family I was, but then I also got really kind of like rail thin too. But that's
Right.
the thing too. You're looked at some kind of way, and then like so the belief is, oh, if you are curvier, you must be more promiscuous, so you're doing something.
And that's true. But I agree with both of them so far. Our different hair textures.
Yes. So about the hair texture part is, I grew up in the suburbs most of my life. So I was put in the context as being a black girl, period, growing up and being around others. So I used to believe, it's so silly. I used to think when I was younger, oh, my hair is different, but if I just comb, it's so silly. If I just keep combing it for a long time, it's just going to stay straight. Like, which doesn't happen.
Okay.
So it's the idea of when you, like, growing up in the 90s and you see like the WB and things like that, you see these women. I never thought I was unattractive compared to them. But I was like, oh, well, their hair does that.
Yeah,
Can I do
yeah.
that?
And why doesn't my hair do that?
Because my hair didn't do that.
Right.
Like,
And then white people specifically are always pointing out about black hair and what it does or doesn't do, making it be like that's a bad thing. And it's not a bad thing. We're all here. We're coming with all gifts of all sorts. All right. Our unique personalities.
and I had like intimidating or weird to others.
And see, all of these things are so appropriate today. Stuff is still going on, and it affects people's lives. Some people can channel it well, and then other people go through a whole lifetime feeling depressed or feeling less than because of these things. Our personal beliefs and ideas, which are
Viewed as crazy if different from others.
yeah, people in the workplace too, as it relates to our hair, the shape of our bodies, our names, whether or not you get a job or not, Aisha or some of the other ethnic so-called. So, and this kind of stuff also affects ethnic names, will prevent you possibly from getting hired. Yeah. Okay, so.
That's the we should not be too picky, or we should never be too picky.
Okay, we meaning black women. Well, I am so picky, but go ahead. Let me hear you.
Well, yes, I use like a brief little kind of like an analogy about when you actually go and you're like literally picky about food. You're being a picky eater.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not. I'm a foodie. I like
Actually,
food.
I'm pretty picky.
Are you with food?
With food, yeah, because I'm more vegetarian all of my life and organic. So I'm not
Or you want too much? And I'm like, what is too much? Like,
associating your pickiness to whether you're single or not. And again, this whole being single because you're too picky, the conversation has been lifelong. And black women, people of other ethnic groups, as well as black men, like to point this thing out, that maybe you are being too picky as to why you are by yourself. And how do you feel about that when someone says that to you?
That's what it is. I would kind of get in trouble when I was younger because I've always been fairly smart too.
Right.
And also when you look at gender as well, like that's part of it, I guess, not to revert back to your question before about when you're seen as this, like, why are you seen as different? Because how we, I believe, as people see gender and like what gender roles are, it seems a lot of times, at least how I was raised a lot, are, okay, it's not just about being a girl that you just, wear pink and like bows and dresses and ponies. It's also, not asking too many questions, not saying too much,
Not
thinking too much.
Right.
So for me, I've always been a thinker.
Yeah.
But I was told that primarily from women in my family, not the men. Like I adore my grandfather. My pop is like the epitome of an intellectual. So we would have long conversations since I was a little kid, but it would be other women in the family who would have a problem with it. So it's like, there are things I noticed. So I'm saying this not to ramble. I'm saying that if someone were to say that to me, I always respond in an intellectual way. I said, well, how do you know I'm not single by choice? Why is it that you assume my worth is determined by if I'm with someone or not? not? Because how many people are with someone and are being cheated on or being mistreated? So why do you think that you're so special that I don't have worth unless you're next to me? People can't respond to those questions that I ask back. They just want to be able to
Well,
hurt
they
you.
could respond. They don't want to respond because they don't want to change. They don't want society to change. They want women to continue to feel that they are supposed to be subservient to their thoughts. I'm picky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what
And their beliefs. And guess what? Smart women, it ain't happening. Okay, so it is really important for women to think about, particularly young women your age, to already think these questions out so that you are confident in your response and to learn to walk away from someone who's trying to make you less than what you want to be. No one can have a vision for your life. No man can make you anything you don't want to be unless you allow it.
Exactly.
So in order for you not to allow it, you got to have a premise of who you want to be and where you want to go. Now, myth number, and then before I go into myth number 3, I really believe that women in your family or women in general that's older than you, that would be giving you advice. Even women, when I was coming up, they would say and do certain things like that that really hurt women in our growth because that's the era they grew up
Exactly.
in. They don't know any better, and they grew up to believe that only you grow up, you get married, you have kids, yada, yada. It's not even what's happening today. So I don't believe that even the women in your family, because you're only 30, so your mother's got to be about 50, if that.
45.
45. So I don't. If she believes that today, then she needs to come on the show.
Oh, no, she doesn't.
Okay.
And that's part of as well of the talking.
Yeah, she can't believe that today because she has seen too many young black women do some phenomenal things. And guess what? She has a daughter doing phenomenal things.
No, it's funny because for so many years I was like, where did I come from? I'm like, I'm nothing like nobody here. And then now she admitted, she was like, for all these years she wasn't being true to herself. Now she's been herself, and we're a lot alike. I'm like, now this makes sense. Like,
yeah, she was scared to be herself because she didn't have a support system. You need a support system, but you also have this umph in you, and that you're going to do it anyway. And a lot of women before you didn't have that, and don't have it now, and that's why it's so. You need other women in your corner, okay, that are like you, or that you admire, that can pull you along and encourage you to do the things that you want to do.
Having that, for me,
And many times these women are not in your family. When I grew up, it was always someone outside of my family that I saw doing something in business, and then I would go and ask some of these women, would you be my mentor? And because I asked the question, they say yes. And then we start meeting, going to breakfast, doing things. And then that's how I did a lot of things. It wasn't because I had someone, because I grew up with teen parents too. I didn't have it. I had to go out and get it myself. And so what that does for people like us, we create our own destinies. We're not waiting for anyone to help us do anything. We will at least start. Not that we don't need help. We need help. But I am definitely going to take the first step because it's something that I want to do. And you're like that too so you got to appreciate your journey, because without that journey, you wouldn't have wrote no Saran Strategy. Okay.
True.
All right. It wouldn't even be on the table. So now, myth number 3.
we can't trust other girls.
This is a deep one, but true. So why do you think that is?
The myth, or why did the myth exist?
Yes.
So I put in a book, since it being a Saran strategy, like just things that I heard growing up, and also what I've observed other girls. I would have some of my girlfriends. Ironically, so many times we would be like, a lot of women say, I don't like women, but yet you have friends. So clearly you like somebody if you have a group of friends.
But let me just stop you there. For women your age to be saying that is a problem. So women my age really need to take stock into what she's saying. If young women feel that they cannot trust women their age or women my age, or that means you can't trust your mother. You can't trust your aunts, your aunties, anyone around you. You don't feel that you can trust them.
And you can't trust yourself
And
because you're a
yourself.
woman.
Yeah, and that is a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, so I put like these quotes here, like things I've heard, things I've even said myself. So that's why I'm able to look at like stuff I've said. I'm like, I can't believe I said this, but I did. Like I get along better with guys. There's too much drama with girls. I don't like girls. Keep other women away from your man. Heard that a lot growing up. She's just jealous. Heard that a lot growing up. And also, you know how women are, you know. So and like I said, is it true that maybe you can get along better with guys? That is possible. You know, there can be drama with girls. That's also possible, right? But when your whole mindset is how all women in the world are, you know, why is that? Where is that coming from? And that's how you're actually approaching every situation subconsciously. And then, you know, you're kind of actually alienating yourself. But then it's like, if you never look at yourself, because the whole book's about looking at self, you know.
As well as you look at yourself, but you have to open up and want to be in a relationship with other women. It's not just going to happen. You have to be vulnerable to, which is very interesting. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Bev Chandran Show, where purpose, passion, and solutions drive the content of this show. I am sitting here with Aisha Saran, who has written a book called The Saran Strategy, The Black Girl's Guide to Healing, Building, and Branding. But this book is not just for black girls. This book is for women in general. She talks about some pertinent information here that we're still talking about. And that is what we're doing to one another, how insecure we're feeling, how much we don't trust one another, and a host of other things. I want you to take the time to go and look on Amazon to get her book and share it with girls, share it amongst make it part of your book club. Saran, what is it that you want to tell the audience to end this segment?
Well, if you're able to get the book, definitely read with an open mind. Please fill out the questions. I think that the questions are questions that will make you think and really dive deep into who you are. I want you to also keep, you know, a sense of humor as well, to understand that what I'm saying through my words are just things to really help empower you and for you to just accept yourself for who you are. At the end of the day, all we have is ourselves. You know, and I want us to all feel that way.
Fantastic. That's a great message to give. Thank you so much for coming on the show and writing the book. Check out Women Against Human Trafficking at www.wahtusa.com. I am going to include her book cover there with some information, with a link so that you can go check it out. I'm sure she's going to be going around the circuit talking about the book. Check out Women Against Human Trafficking and what we're doing. Check out this floral arrangement on the side of me, WHAT. There's a new floral arrangement that we are marketing. If you have a lost one, we can never recover from these situations, but we do have something that we want to offer in these circumstances. Thanks again for looking at the show, and tune in next time. Thanks.